Welcome to Hannity. Again tonight, we have so much breaking news all over the place out of Virginia, Vietnam, the swamp, Washington, D.C., where Mueller's witch hunt will soon officially be over. And spoiler alert, no collusion. And we learned earlier today there will not be a report next week. Maybe someone actually figured out that an extremely important summit about world peace, about the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is actually taking place in Vietnam next week. Not a good time. What we, by the way, will be reporting from Vietnam all next week. We'll have more of that in a minute. But first, we turn to our top story out of Chicago once again. Embattled Empire actor Jussie Smollett. He is still proclaiming his innocence after being formally accused of orchestrating what is an elaborate hate crime hoax and charged with a felony. And Smollett posted bond. He went directly to the set of Empire. It is reported that he told the cast and crew, quote, "I swear to God, I did not do this." But according to TMZ, many of his co-stars, they're not buying it, and they are bleeping furious. And today, producers announced that Smollett's role on Empire has been cut from the final 2 episodes. Now, Jussie Smollett's lawyers, they are correct. He must be assumed innocent, presumption of innocence before being proven guilty. With that said, the evidence against him as presented by the Chicago police yesterday and others is now overwhelming and, frankly, beginning to border on incontrovertible. And according to prosecutors, Smollett paid these 2 brothers thousands of dollars to stage a homophobic, racist assault against the actor on the streets of Chicago using a noose, bleach, all while wearing red MAGA hats, Make America Great Again hats, and ski masks. Both of those individuals have been testifying both before the grand jury and to the police against Smollett. And as you can see right there, that video, evidence shows that pair buying the items used allegedly in the assault. Surveillance also shows the brothers' arrival at the scene of the incident. Phone records indicate Smollett called the brothers both before and right after the staged attack, and text exchanges spell out how Smollett solicited their help. And perhaps the most damning and most puzzling piece of evidence, he paid the accomplices with a check, kind of a.k.a. Jerry Springer. Now, naturally, the spin has already started. Smollett allegedly is trying to tell the police he had an untreated drug problem. Texts indicate that, in fact, the actor may have purchased the party drug known as Molly or ecstasy from one of the brothers involved in this hoax. So is he saying the drugs made him do it, but he didn't do it? Well, except ecstasy or Molly has never been known to cause any hate crime hoax. And meanwhile, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, they're toting a brand new conspiracy. Maybe the Chicago police are just lying. Take a look.
This police department did in 2016 openly, through their union, support Donald Trump. And a lot of this case has been focused on the MAGA statements. So to have a police department that hasn't been as cooperative as they have been this round, do not openly give information, do openly lie and mishold information in cases, and then to know that they are have openly supported Donald Trump in the 2016 election, a lot of activists on the ground are saying, wait, what's going on here? Who do we believe out of these 2 suspect people?
Now, of course, most in the media mob, the hate Trump media mob, are coming to grips with the Smollett story the only way they know how. Blame Trump some more. Everything's Trump's fault. The dog bites, the bee stings. If you're feeling sad, it's Trump's fault. Yep. Incredibly, the hate Trump media mob has now officially lost any sense of reality in a complete state of hate Trump psychosis. Take a look.
There are a lot of evidence violent incidents that happen at these MAGA rallies, and I just don't want to have Jussie Smollett distract from that.
Obviously, we're not going to put what happened on Trump, but what we can put on Trump clearly is the heightened panic and angst.
Today, folks that believed Jussie as a default position, we feel sadness today. We don't feel stupid today. I feel bad for the people who did not default to that empathy, who think that this is a game, who are gloating today. Those people have something fundamentally wrong with them.
Are you listening to this? This hate Trump media mob loses it when President Trump calls them out for fake news, which they are. But what they're doing is even worse. They continually rush to judgment. It's always guilt by accusation, but only if you're a Republican or a conservative. pushing blatantly false stories, conspiracy theories, impugning the character of millions of Americans, now even teenagers, that may wear a MAGA hat. Why? To push their favorite narrative every second, minute, hour of every 24-hour day, every week, month, year. Trump's evil, his supporters are evil, and they are morally superior. This is why fake victimhood is on the rise. Now, attention-seeking Trump haters know that they will garner sympathy almost immediately and fame from the media because it advances their narrative, all while impugning the character of Trump supporters in the process. So in the era of Trump, we see hoax after hoax after hoax. Very little reporting on it. Remember racist graffiti on a building at Eastern Michigan University, staged by a former student. A woman in New York saying that, oh, a group of pro-Trump teens vandalized her car while yelling Trump 2016. Turned out she vandalized her own car. Homophobic slurs spray painted on the side of an Indiana church by the church organ player. Look at the side of your screen. Fake hate crimes are far too common in this country. And time again, this media mob and Democrats, if it fits their agenda, they buy these stories hook, line, sinker, constantly rushing to judgment. And by the way, they hold up each eventual hoax as a shining example of why Trump supporters are horrible people. And remember, we're the smelly Walmart people, the irredeemable deplorables. We cling to our God, Bibles, guns, and religion. And in doing so, they ruin the reputation and in some cases the lives of very good, honorable, decent people. And when the truth is revealed, crickets. They just move on to the next fake news story. No apologies, no accountability, no mea culpa, no nothing. This is what happened in the case of Richard Jewell. Remember, I thought it was so bad in 1996. The media mob there accused him of being the Olympic bomber. Why? Because he lived with his mother. I was on the air at the time. Richard was listening. I said, that's the most idiotic theory I've ever heard. Turns out he was a hero. But watch this.
You've got Jay Leno referring to Richard as Unidoofus. The New York Post referring to him as a Rambo. The Atlanta Journal and Constitution calling him everything from a villain to a person seeking the limelight, an overzealous fool.
Everybody in the world thinks that he bombed the park because of the way he's been portrayed in the media.
If they could fool me, someone who's supposed to be educated and experienced in being fair and objective and reaching solid conclusions, if they could fool me, then boy, they fooled a lot of people.
And as bad as it was then, it is so much worse with the media mob today. That attorney you saw is Lin Wood. He found some justice, thankfully, for his client through the civil court system. But Jewell has since passed away at a really young age. I believe, and so does Lin Wood, that the stress of all of that helped contribute to his heart condition. And what the media put him through was pure hell. Lin Wood now representing Covington High School student Nicholas Sandmann, who was the latest victim, a 16-year-old kid now, of the mob's politically motivated anti-Trump rush to judgment. This mob, their attacks on Nicholas Sandmann were so insane, many even on fake news CNN, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, and elsewhere actually started to talk about the racist scourge of red Make America hats. Okay, a hat that says make this country great again is a trigger? What's next? Not guilty of a crime? Maybe somebody suffering from hate Trump derangement syndrome? Watch this.
It has become an invitation for confrontation. Some have even referred to the hat as a modern-day version of the Confederate battle flag.
The hat in some ways represents, for many of us, a kind of racial animus.
The MAGA hat carries a certain connotation that provokes a conditioned reaction from many people, especially from marginalized people.
Just think about the symbol of that red hat. When I see the Make America Great Again hat now, Chris, I am triggered.
A red Make America Great Again hat caused me to do these things. And all these hate Trump media blaming a fake hate crime on a hat. Actually, hate crimes are going totally unreported. Where was the media hysteria over attacks where Trump supporters were punched, kicked, assaulted, harassed, stalked, all because of their political beliefs. Don Lemon, have you ever covered that? Robin Roberts? Anyone else in the hate Trump media? You talk about the rise in the far left hatred or obsess about the physical attacks on people merely wearing a red MAGA hat? Why? How many of these people support Black Lives Matter? What do we want? Dead cops. What do we want them now? Pigs in a blanket. Fry them like bacon. Bacon. It doesn't fit their narrative. Those people don't seem to matter if you're a conservative and wear a Make America Great Again hat. And it's why we've seen little to no coverage of this vicious assault from earlier this week. Trump supporter, activist, brutally punched. He's trying to videotape the whole thing over his political beliefs. We don't know everything what happened, but 3 witnesses confirm his story. Take a look.
You want to hit me? I'll shoot you. And then that's not get the that's not friend. You on this fight, dude. I'm with you. Yeah. On this fight, I'm with you. You put your hands on me again. Racist little dude.
Hayden Williams is the kid that just got cold-cocked in that particular video. We're letting the facts play out. So far, 3 eyewitnesses support his story, that he was assaulted. He said it was over a pro-Trump sign. Mainstream media, silence. No rush into judgment here. In fact, pretty much no coverage at all. But what else should we expect from a mainstream media that is actively working on behalf of the Democratic Party? First, to stop Donald Trump from ever becoming president, but now they want to impugn the character of millions of Americans that support the president, that like the success in our economy, that like the 5.3 million new jobs. We'll have a lot more on this coming up. But first, a quick update on our Hannity watch of Mueller's witch hunt. The probe is reportedly now in its final stages. There were earlier reports this week that it would wrap up and the report would be delivered to the DOJ next week. But according to a great new article from Kimberly Strassel, look at this. Democrats are anticipating a huge letdown with no collusion literally written on the wall at this point. Conspiracy theorist, House Intel Committee chair, biggest liar in Congress, and I can prove it, Adam Schiff, he's plotting his backup plan. I'm sure the media will follow suit, and it's something that we have warned about for months. That means nonstop, never-ending, endless, frivolous, expensive, pointless investigations on the same topic, and President Trump and his family and anybody associated with him. They know they'll find nothing, but it gives Democrats a venue to continue what has been 2 years of never-ending smear and slander and innuendo and conspiracy theories and character assassination of Donald Trump and anybody that likes him. Gives Schiff an excuse to do his favorite activity, lie to you, we the people. All right, joining us now, we have a lot to get to tonight. The author of the book, The Case Against the Democratic House Impeaching Trump, Harvard Professor Alan Dershowitz, and also Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. You know, Geraldo, you were so passionate last night and you reminded me of the police superintendent. I said last night, I thought that was the best news conference I watched in my career. He was so good in describing the impact when people lie.
First of all, I'm honored to be on with 2 of my best friends, you and Professor Dershowitz. It's an honor. I thought that the police superintendent in Chicago, Eddie Johnson, saved the reputation of the city, the sane voice to the partisans on both sides in this troubling issue. I think we cannot lose sight of what this is. This is a cynical, selfish, exploitive young man who shamed the history of true victims of race crimes in this country by his cavalier staging of this event. It reminds me a lot of O.J. Simpson, you know, not as serious because no one died, but the mountain of evidence against him and the bizarre nature of the partisans who are continuing to support him in the face of this mountain of evidence is similar. There's no logic to it. It's infuriating. Smollett is going to get his just desserts. I think that people will abandon him eventually, but it is pretty clear from the evidence as we know it that this man sought to exploit the racial tensions in this country for his own financial gain. It's disgusting. It's low down and dirty. I don't think his career... What I would do were I him is just go to a tropical island, chill out for a couple of years, then come back and crawl on your belly and apologize to the American people.
He's now got to be tried, and there might be a federal aspect to this coming not long after. Professor, I'm very consistent. The evidence now mounting and mounting and mounting, and the videos and everything associated with it. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, the hard left is perfectly willing to demand the presumption of innocence, as they should, for Smollett. But they weren't prepared to give a presumption of innocence to the non-existent MAGA hat-wearing assailants. They immediately assumed the story was true, immediately convicted these people in the court of public opinion. And so what we see is the presumption of innocence, like so many other aspects of our life, is selectively employed by the left against the right, sometimes by the right against the left. We have to have a presumption of innocence on both sides, and you in your monologue set that out correctly. You said we have to assume Smollett to be innocent, but look at the evidence. It is certainly mounting. Now, I believe strongly, because I've been a victim myself of this, when somebody deliberately frames somebody and deliberately makes up a false report of anything, that person must go to jail. The integrity of the system demands that deliberate false reporters, not if you made an act, not if you made a mistake, an honest mistake, but deliberate false reporters must go to jail. You know, the Bible says that if you testify falsely against somebody, you get the penalty that that person would have gotten
one of the
had
Big
he
Ten,
been
Professor.
guilty. And if you apply that here, you would see that this guy should get the penalty that the assailants would have gotten if they were real and existed.
But what is really...
I really am worried, though, Professor, and I don't want to hold it away.
Okay.
There really are racist, vile, vicious racists in this country. There are horrible people that would hurt innocent people because of their sexual orientation. There are... Look at a congresswoman that is a virulent anti-Semite that sits on a foreign affairs committee still. Now, that's unacceptable to me, Professor.
Unbelievable. It's not acceptable to me. And, you know, when you hear somebody say that the MAGA hat is a trigger, that is such a phony excuse. For some people, the Star of David is a trigger. For some people, the cross is a trigger. For some people, seeing a gay couple together or an interracial couple is a trigger.
Mind your own business.
We don't accept people who are racist based on triggers that they don't like. That's just wrong.
And what is unforgivable is all of the smart people who are blind to the evidence because it fits their political narrative to think that the original fake story was true. They hate Trump so much that they're seeking to justify even this absolutely impossible story.
All right, amazing commentary from both of you.
And today it's used against them. Tomorrow it could be used against you.
True. You're right, 100%. Very well said, both of you. Thank you. All right, when we come back, we are not done holding what is now the fake news media mob accountable. When we come back, we're going to play you how they covered the Smollett case before and after the evidence started coming out. Some cases, crickets. Also, the brilliant Victor Davis Hanson joins us with powerful commentary and so much more. Straight ahead. All right, as usual, the hate Trump media mob's handling of the Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax, well, that has been a dishonest and reckless disaster. Fox News has a new report out today showing that MSNBC, the conspiracy TV cable, quote, news network, decided not to cover the Smollett story as soon as they realized it was a hoax. But before the Smollett event was exposed as the hoax, well, the mainstream media and NBC, they were giddy to report it as facts. No checking at all. And, of course, all in a rush to blame President Trump and his supporters. Take a look.
Certainly, there are many indications of a hate crime here. They are looking for two suspects who were apparently wearing Make America Great Again hats.
It's coming from the President of the United States. He's dog whistling every day. He's separating and dividing.
Connect the dots. This is what happens. If you are in a position of power and you hate people and you want to cause suffering to them.
My initial reaction was sadness. Yeah. I wasn't shocked.
Now, however, since authorities have declared the incident a hoax and have now been putting out evidence minute by minute almost, well, the media is singing a very different tune. But, of course, it's still a hate Trump madness tune. Take a look.
This is a Jackie Robinson against homophobia in the black community, an icon, a beloved icon, and now you have the fall of an icon.
There is an atmosphere, as I said last week, and it remains true today, an atmosphere of menace and fear.
MAGA supporters have painted themselves as that. I mean, when you look at footage, when you hear things they say, this is the honest to goodness truth, and we have to be bold enough to call that out.
But in the court of public opinion,
it matters.
It matters, and he lost that because of how, and not his fault. Maybe people were, I don't know what they were saying to him, how maybe because of his representatives. Who knows?
All right, joining us now with reaction host of Relatable podcast, Allie Beth Stuckey, and nationally syndicated radio talk show host with the Salem Radio Network, my friend Larry Elder. Larry, let's, look at these other headlines. Smollett apologizes to Empire cast and crew, maintains he's innocent. Smollett's Empire role cut out. Maxine Waters not ready to believe what the police in Chicago are saying. Oh, my favorite, Conspiracy TV, MSNBC. A guest says Chicago PD may be framing Jussie Smollett. Framing him. What do you think?
Let's start, Sean, with MSNBC. I've got two things to say about MSNBC. Al Sharpton. This is a guy who made his bones by falsely accusing a white Dutchess County Assistant DA, Stephen Pagonis, of raping Tawana Brawley. In the grand jury testimony, one of Sharpton's cohorts testified that they knew from the beginning it was a lie. A security guard for the lawyers and for Sharpton testified that they all joked, they all knew that it was a lie from the very beginning. It's outrageous this guy's even a public figure. So what is MSNBC going to say about this fraud when they have a fraud sitting right there pontificating
we
and got to show
we're sorry, we rushed to judgment, we were wrong. We apologize to our viewers. Maybe start there.
Yeah, at the very least, they should be doing that.
At the very least. All right, let me go to Allie Beth.
Right.
The history. Larry knows this history, and I watched it all. But Reverend Al's still a power broker. But the bigger part is, it's bigger than that. The media. This is the media again and again and again. Covington, the media gets it wrong. Ferguson, they get it wrong.
Right.
Cambridge Police, they get it wrong in Baltimore. They get it wrong. They don't vet Obama. They don't tell 8 years later how bad he did. They're obsessed and with a compulsion that's bordering on psychotic to hate this president and even the Russia collusion lies they tell every day.
Right. Well, you just heard why in that montage. They're so insulated by their own self-righteousness that they're not able to see reality. They're not able to judge things rightly. They don't even understand the problem or what they did in the beginning, whether it was Covington or this, assuming that white people who wear red hats, the red hats in particular, are in the wrong, no matter what the facts are. They're so quick to check their boxes of intersectionality to say these people who support Trump are bad. Of course, they're going to do this. That they're unwilling to take a step back and say, okay, what is actually true? It's the AOC standard that she has set for the left that the media have really been following for a long time on the left, which is it's okay if you're not factually correct as long as you're morally right. And that's what we see them doubling down on today and in the past couple of days, saying, okay, we might not have gotten the facts right, but at least we're morally right. Here's the bigger picture. Trump supporters are still bad, and that's what makes me sad.
Yeah, Larry, I like Don Lemon. I met him personally. We disagree politically, but he said that Smollett is going to make me eat. I'm going to be eating Smollett's lunch. Now he's saying, if you're guilty, confess. Throw yourself on the mercy of the court. Doesn't sound like I'm going to be eating any lunch anytime soon.
No, and Sean, there was a host of People TV who said, I was praying and hoping this day would never come, meaning the day that that Jussie Smollett is exposed as a fraud. So she would rather believe that there are two Trump-supporting goons patrolling the streets of Chicago, armed with bleach and nooses, looking for gay and black guys to beat up because they don't like Trump. She would rather believe that than to believe this guy lied. That's sick. It really is.
Yeah. Last word, Allie. really, and dangerous. And the public consumes this garbage. And you know what? You know, this is such a disservice to the American people, and they get away with it time after time, although their credibility's shot. Allie Beth.
Absolutely. And, you know, we hear from the left. I heard on CNN today about empathy, that we should be feeling empathy for him. Well, I'm feeling empathy for victims of actual crimes that are now not going to be believed. They're not going to be seen as quite as credible because now we not only have to be skeptical about the facts that are presented to us at the very beginning, but we also have to wonder about people's motives. Are people so inclined to be a victim, to become virtuous, that they're willing to make something up like this? So the empathy that I feel isn't necessarily towards Smollett, who obviously has a lot of issues, but towards the people who aren't going to be taken seriously, even though they deserve to be.
All right, thank you both. All right, when we come back, really shocking video. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez defending the vile comments made against President Trump. Also, we have a mini monologue straight ahead, and the brilliant Victor Davis Hanson, the coup that never was, and so much more. Straight ahead. On the economy, near record low unemployment, especially for demographic groups in this country that have not gotten the chances that they deserve. That means record low unemployment, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, youth unemployment. Look at this, rising wage growth. Democrats like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez remain defiant. They continue to push what are their radical visions for America's future that will guarantee poverty. Higher taxes, maybe as high as 70%, mandated climate shaming, and apparently even telling you what to eat, not making it up. Take a look.
Listen, we got to address factory farming. Maybe we shouldn't be eating a hamburger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, let's keep it real.
Slow down.
But we have to take a look at everything, and what we need to realize is that climate change is about every choice that we make in our lives. If you make more than $10 million in 1 year, your $10 millionth and $1 gets taxed.
Democratic Socialist Party. Don't forget about Michigan Congresswoman Tlaib, who recently called to, quote, impeach the MFer, Trump, just hours after being sworn into office. Take a look.
When your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
They recently got together with Congresswoman Omar and downplayed the whole thing and are actually embracing their unhinged extremism. Go team.
Rashida got into a little bit of trouble for saying a boo-boo word.
Oh, basically a word we say every 5 minutes on our show.
I sent her a text and I was like, don't worry about it. Like this, I mean, who cares?
No, it's honest. That's saying that guy.
Yeah.
Like the double standard in that is that guy never gets in trouble for all of the boo-boo words he
That's
uses.
right.
Is there a lot of double standards around here?
I have a beef with almost everyone here because there's a lack of courage.
Right.
And it seems like we're all radical because we deeply care about the people that we represent.
There's a lot here they don't get. Sure, the vulgarity is what it is and pretty outrageous, but it was the reckless way they talk about impeachment, which is obviously serious, a specific process of which there is no basis for. And remember, as crazy as the over-the-top as this behavior is with these new lawmakers, they have real influence. They are part of this hard left turn among 2020 Democrats, totally out of balance and out of touch with everyday Americans. For example, Elizabeth Warren is now saying that her, quote, wealth tax. Now, that means a new tax after you already paid your taxes. If you manage to save money, well, it's just a big down payment on the Green New Deal and free child care. Don't forget about Champagne socialist Bernie Sanders, who has now agreed to sign a pledge affirming he will run as a Democrat. Why shouldn't he? He's the one that first pushed these radical extreme ideas, free health care, free college, huge entitlements. Now the party's just embracing his socialist utopia. By the way, he might be a moderate compared to some of the other candidates. Look at this video from 1985, where he offers praise for the Castro regime. And let me remind you, Castro was a murdering thug dictator who stole people's land and literally created more poverty than you've ever seen. Take a look.
I recall way back in, what was it, 1961, they invaded Cuba. And everybody was totally convinced that Castro was the worst guy in the world, that all the Cuban people were going to rise up in rebellion against Fidel Castro. They had forgot that he educated their kids, gave them health care, totally transformed the society. You know, not to say that Fidel Castro or Cuba are perfect. They are certainly not. But just because Ronald Reagan dislikes these people does not mean to say that the people in their own nations feel the same way.
Looks like a former 60s hippie turned professor. Sounds like the senator could use a Hannity history lesson about human rights abuses, censorship, and economic disaster of Cuba and murdering rage of innocent people. And it's not just Cuba. We're watching this now unfold in real time, this far-left agenda playing out in Venezuela, where free leads to famine and socialism leads to suffering. They have food shortages and violent, constant chaos. Look at this footage. Venezuela's Maduro is actually stopping aid from reaching his own country. Let me ask a question. Well, how many people are fleeing capitalism? Not a lot. How many people are fleeing from America to Venezuela? Free market capitalism works, the greatest wealth creator in the history of man. And we see socialism failing time and time again throughout history. All right, joining us now for reaction, author of The Case for Trump. He's with the Hoover Institute, Victor Davis Hanson, one of my favorite writers. You wrote such a great column about the failed coup. But I want to ask you about this. I'm going to give you a litany, and then I'm going to let you go. We're going to redo every home in America, eliminate cars, the combustion engine, planes, and 70% tax, then a wealth tax if you save a few cents after it, and guaranteed job with a guaranteed wage, family medical leave, guaranteed vacations, guaranteed retirement, guaranteed college, guaranteed healthy government food, guaranteed housing, guaranteed health care, but not private. You can't have that. And even if you're unwilling to work. Okay. You are one of the greatest thinking conservative minds in the country. What does this lead to?
Well, you know, in history, it's kind of frightening because we get these left-wing revolutionary cycles in antiquity, 18th century France, 19th century Europe, where people become entirely, you use the word unhinged from reality. And so each revolutionary position within 24 hours or a week becomes passé. So Bernie Sanders, remember, Sean, he was edgy when he used the word socialist. Now socialist is not radical enough. That green agenda of Al Gore seems passé compared to the new Green Deal. We were, not too long ago, we were talking about how much of a wall we should build, and there was an opposition between Democrats and Republicans, and then it was whether you needed a wall. Now Beto wants to tear down the wall. And you mentioned the tax. We went from Obama 39, and then we went to 70, and then 90, and then a wealth tax. And so no radical position can be radical enough within the next iteration, and that's what this Democratic stampede over the cliff is in now. And the question is why, you know, Sean, what prompted it?
So New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois, all these heavily regulated, high-tax states, they're losing massive amounts of their population. Less than a decade, they lost 1 million people in California. And I view that as a preview of coming attractions. Because if they do what they're saying they want to do to the country, like Andrew Cuomo is a $2.3 billion shortfall because he taxed the rich, taxed the rich, taxed the rich, and the rich are leaving. Will they leave the country?
Yeah, well, what I said, I used that metaphor before, Pied Piper stampeding people over the cliff, because the logical trajectory is oblivion or nihilism. Because finally you get so radical that you're so detached from reality that you can't have reality. And I kind of blame Barack Obama because he put a happy face on, you didn't build that, now is not the time to profit. At some point you made enough money, the 1%. And then after him it became easier and easier. And we have universities that don't teach people anything other than ideology. So most of these young kids couldn't find Venezuela on the map, or they don't know who Lenin is. Finally, Sean, you know, we have 60 million immigrants in this country, and we're not assimilating and integrating them in the melting pot traditions. And they're not Cubans fleeing tyranny in the 60s, and they're not Hungarians fleeing from the 1950s that knew communism. Most of them are coming from impoverished places where their critique was there wasn't enough entitlement, and they come here hoping that there'll be a centralized redistributionist government, and they become fodder for left-wing ideologies.
You can read Victor Davis Hanson, NRO.com. All right, when we come back, huge major story. Why is the news media, why are they sweeping under the rug about the lieutenant governor of Virginia and the charge of rape? What if the lieutenant governor's name was Kavanaugh? And our villain of the day, straight ahead. Although the media seems to have forgotten, Ralph Northam is still governor of Virginia, despite being caught in a racially charged scandal with his medical school yearbook and admitted being in blackface. Well, as for his lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, well, Virginia Republicans now finally plan hearings into the sexual assault allegations against him, with both of his accusers invited to publicly testify. But if you think the hate Trump media mob, you think they're pushing any of these stories out to the public? Well, use your imagination. According to media research, networks' coverage of the Virginia scandals has fallen off a cliff. Joining us now to discuss the media's handling of this, Fox News contributors Tammy Bruce and our own Lawrence Jones. You know, Tammy, you were so powerful during the Kavanaugh hearings. Apparently, one of these charges, one is sexual assault, one is rape. And what I read is that at the time, the accuser actually told real people.
Right.
And no media coverage. Is it because it's a Democrat? Is it because they just didn't read the newspaper and hear about it? Why the double standard that's so apparent?
Well, it's apparent on both sides there. And the media clearly is the water carriers for the American left. And they are not interested in this, just like the Democrats are not really interested in the issues that impact women's lives. Otherwise, we'd have some successes, right? They rely on this kind of victimhood and these problems remaining so that they can run on them. That said, what the Republicans and people who care about this country need to do is look at when coverage of issues like this falls off the cliff, and it tells you what the Democrats are really afraid of, and it tells you what the Trump White House, what the GOP need to focus on in general. First of all, because it's the right thing to do, because these are serious issues, of course, that affect all of our lives. Certainly, they affect women, but they affect the men who love those women and who you know, your mothers and your sisters and your daughters and your wives, your best friends. So all Americans care about this, and the GOP must realize that it's been a fraud that the Democrats have been the leaders for minorities in this country and for women, and they must take up that mantle because all Americans deserve representation, and it is only the conservative ideal that will deliver it.
But Sean, we got to stop.
I want to ask you this. Where are all the I believe people? Because I'll tell you where I stand on this. No. I'm still in the I don't know category. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the Republicans, for once in the Kavanaugh hearings, they gave it the seriousness and the proper attention that it deserved, and then it fell apart on its own. I don't know what happened here, but it should be treated the same way, and it's not.
Yeah, as it relates to the Fairfax case, he has a right to due process, but that's not what the Democrats called for in the beginning. So all we're asking is for a little bit of consistency. If this is the position now that you don't care about these issues, then use that same positioning when there's Republicans on the other side. But as it relates to the blackface scandals, we know what they did there. And I don't understand how Republicans continue to lose to a party like this. I mean, who didn't search the yearbooks? Who didn't go after these people?
Lawrence, I can tell you why.
Sitting on their tail?
All the government workers moved to Northern Virginia.
Yeah, but Sean, what about the Republican strategists that were running these campaigns after they painted the Republican candidate as a racist? Meanwhile, we have 2 yearbooks, okay, that have people in blackface, and we lost to these people? Come on, give me a break.
I totally agree with you. We'll give Tammy the last word.
Well, look, there's lots of lessons to learn here. We've seen that, of course. There was still the anti-Trump GOP operating to some degree, but it's an investment in the swamp, in the bureaucratic monster. That is what we've been led to for the last several generations by the system as we know it. And this is why the Trump administration is so important. And our new view for reformation overall for both parties will only lift this country up. We're just at the beginning of it, and we're getting reminders every day why it's so important.
All right, Lawrence, Tammy, thank you so much for being with us. When we come back, our villain of the day, I'm going to tell you what happened to a 3-time deported illegal immigrant. Wait till you see this video. Also, I'll be in Vietnam next week, interviewing the president at the historic summit with Kim Jong-un. We'll give you the details straight ahead. All right, our villain of the day is Javier Hernandez Morales, an illegal immigrant previously deported 3 times and released over ICE objections on several occasions. Why? California's sanctuary policies. Now, we are about to show you graphic body cam footage of him reaching for a gun and firing that gun on Napa County Sheriff's Deputy Riley Jarecki. Take a look at this.
Shots fired, shots fired.
When do the people that allow these criminal aliens to go free, when do they bear the responsibility and culpability here? 48-year-old criminal alien was killed. The deputy, thank God, was not seriously injured. All right, important note, we will be covering President Trump's foreign trip to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We'll be in Vietnam next week. That's all the time we have left this evening. And stay tuned. Thanks always for watching. We'll see you Monday